Hello, Phantom fans. My name is Sam Olmstead. His name is Justin Irwin. This is the Dump and Chase podcast. This week's show is brought to you by our incredible sponsors at Advanced Podiatry. For information on treatment options and services provided, office locations, and appointment information, head over to advancedpodiatry.com. So thank you for listening in this week, whether you are tuning in on Western Reserve Radio, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. So right off the bat, I'm happy to say I actually remembered this year. This episode marks the 3-year anniversary of the Dump and Chase podcast. Our first episode appeared on YouTube on March 29th, 2019. My God, what have we been doing with our lives since then?
Apparently not much.
Yeah, this is overall episode 71, even though we have some bonus episodes and other stuff that we've done as well as that. We're in our 4th season. Our first season was fairly short thanks to an early playoff exit. Episode 25 this season. We definitely have not done 25 in a season so far.
Yeah, no, we've managed to keep up at least on the podcast this year. So
yeah. Well, we have something to talk about this year. Last year, not so much.
Yeah.
I think we hit the point we were doing a show every other weekend just to keep our sanity, every other week just to keep our sanity.
Yeah, well, it was somewhat repetitive.
Yeah. Well, like you said, there's only so many ways we could say we lost to Muskegon again. So it wasn't a really great weekend for the Phantoms, only 2 out of a possible 6 points, but Muskegon having a so-so weekend and Madison losing the only game that they played, we're really no worse for the wear when it's all said and done.
No, I mean, that's the grind of the season. You just have to hope that the other teams get ground down at least evenly with you. All in all, it could have been a worse weekend, I guess. We did get 2 points there at the tail end. We'll see going forward. Another long weekend coming up, so we'll see.
So I went through and took a look because we're coming into the final weeks of the season. We're getting to the point playoff spots are starting to be clinched. In the Eastern Conference, Chicago has already clinched. Dubuque can clinch essentially with a win or a Cedar Rapids loss. Their magic number, which we'll be getting into here, is only 1. So, basically Dubuque can have an overtime shootout loss, or, Cedar Rapids could have an overtime or shootout loss. It's just at 1 point, and Dubuque will clinch. Right now, Youngstown, their magic number sits at 13. Now, this is just kind of overall, not factoring in tiebreakers and all that other kind of stuff, because I'm not going to sit and do all that math with the entire conference when everybody still on average has about 9-10 games left. But yeah, right now, Youngstown, their magic number is 13. That would put them far enough ahead of Cedar Rapids that would at least get them into the playoffs. Seeding's a whole different animal there. Thankfully, Cedar Rapids may do some of the heavy lifting for us on that one. The remaining 10 games on their schedule are brutal.
It's not a schedule I'd want to have going down the stretch. I don't think actually any team really has a great final stretch. Yeah, and the way they're playing, I don't see them winning a preponderance of that.
Yeah, they have 10 games left. That's Waterloo, Des Moines, the under-18s, Youngstown, Muskegon, Dubuque, 2 games with Madison, and 2 games again with Dubuque. They could get us into the playoffs all on their own. It may not matter much what Youngstown does. That's a horrific final stretch to have to go through there.
Yeah, it's again, that's just how the grind of the season goes, and yeah, that's that is brutal.
Yeah. Now, as far as the Eastern Conference standings, I guess the biggest change would be, since there seems to be this just jumbling of like the bottom 3 teams not being that far apart. Right now, Team USA has jumped into 6th place in that final playoff spot. Now, the U18s have 3 games remaining on their part of the schedule, which is all coming this weekend. 2 games with Green Bay and a game with Cedar Rapids. So I think it'll be safe to say they'll probably win those 3.
Yeah, I think the U18s just played Green Bay, and that was, I forget what the final score on that one was, but it was pretty ugly for Green Bay.
The U17s, once the 18s are done, the U17s will play the last 8 games of Team USA schedule, and that is Youngstown, 2 games with Madison, 2 games with Muskegon, a game with Chicago, and then the home and home at the end of the season with Youngstown. Will USA stay in that 6th spot? I'm not seeing it happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, but then again, Green Bay is pretty bad as well. So it's kind of, I see a 3-way race for the bottom.
And to your point a second ago, that was Team USA beat Green Bay 10-1.
10-1. Okay, yeah.
The 18 squads.
Yeah, both of them were playing their 3rd game of the weekend, I guess. I guess USA had a little bit more left in them.
All right, so last week we played part 1 of our interview with Phantoms Vice President Megan Ellashek, which covered the Phantom season ticket packages for next season. Now, for this episode, we're going to be playing part 2, which covered one of Megan's other roles with the team as the Billet family coordinator. So without further ado, here is part 2. Like I mentioned at the beginning, another part of your job description is the Billet family coordinator, and I imagine recruiting for that is just kind of a year-round effort, always looking ahead to the future, lining up Billet families and stuff like that. Maybe families having their own kids going off and having to worry, going off to college or other things, having to worry about that, so constantly having to bring new families in. How's that going? And maybe anybody listening who has thought about it in the past, what would be the selling point to them to do that?
Well, surprisingly enough, we do have several empty nesters that absolutely love having the players in their home. Some advantages are you get season tickets, you get the parking pass for housing the players. There is a stipend that you do receive. You get to go to a picnic that we have at the beginning of the year where all the players get to meet all the billets, and really it's their first time seeing us all together. We try and do some other fun things throughout the year. This year, we were very lucky that one of our billets had us over for Halloween, and they did pumpkin carving, and they paired every player up with a different child in the family, and they carved pumpkins. It might not even be the one that was living in their house. They had a phenomenal time. So if somebody would happen to be interested, you can call me directly at 330-746-5234, or you can email me at MELLASHEK@youngstownphantoms.com. We also have information on our website. There's a story about a billet and what it was like for them and how many players they house. The requirements are that the player has to have a room with a bed. Easy access to a bathroom. Most of them do drive. However, the ones that don't, we do have to pair them up with a non-driver with a driver so they can get to and from practice. And then it's just a matter of having fun throughout the season and really getting to know them as well as their families, because their families are an active part and they're relying on you to take care of this player. They range from age 16 to 20. They can turn 21 within the season, and you really are their home away from home.
And that's maybe, when you talk about you talk about how important the coaches are, how important, the support staff is, and everything else. And the billet families are really kind of the unsung heroes of this whole thing. They're the ones bringing these kids in and creating a home environment for them, while they're away from their own families during the season. Some of them over extremely long distances, say, Russia or Japan or, Czech Republic or whatever they call themselves now. It's, and it's just, I don't know, maybe sometimes people don't realize, but it's more than anything else. They're really the unsung heroes the team structure.
Absolutely. We couldn't do what we do without them. They are definitely a backbone of the organization that holds us together. When a player comes back and they've come off the road and they had a rough time, that's who they're talking to, and that's who's making their pregame meal and their routines. And they really do take them in and treat them just as they would their own children.
Yeah, and those are some of the awesome stories you hear from now and then, where you'll have like a billet parent who gets a hold of, the player's mother and finds out, this is his favorite meal. and they share recipes and, they'll learn how to make, what they're used to eating when they're at home. Stories I love hearing stories like that.
We have billets that have gone to the extent of, hey, listen, I cook gluten-free. If you've got anybody, just send them to my house. Don't even question it. Or, we had a billet father teach one of the players how to change oil because he asked. But that's just what they do. That's what they would do for their own kids. So that's what they do for ours. And it's so heartwarming to see.
All right. So we're starting to come down to the end of the March. We're getting into April, playoffs around the corner. And this is really the first time, especially for you being with the team, coming into, that playoff scenario. So over the next month or so, what are you looking forward to?
Definitely there are themed nights. We have with the pucks and paws and the $5 game. And the very last game we do at the end of the season, I don't know if people know, but we do a fan appreciation and we have sponsors that give us stuff to hand out at the games. And then I'm just hopeful that we make it to playoffs because our boys have had the longest season the last 2 years, it feels like, and they deserve it. They work so hard, and I'm really hopeful that I get to be part of that journey this year.
Okay, Megan, one more time before I let you go, could you give everybody whatever way they could get in contact with you as far as tickets or billeting information or anything of that sort?
Well, for billeting, my number is 330-746-5234. My email is MELLASHEK@youngstownphantoms.com. For tickets, you can call my number or the main line is 330-747-PUCK.
Alrighty, so we've been speaking to Phantoms Vice President, billet coordinator, the phrase we love to use on the show, Swiss Army knife. The power outage game, I wish I would have taken video of you and Kelsey just kind of running around the concourse with boxes and everything else, trying to keep people happy while frantically trying to get the power back onto the Cavelli Center. It was a sight to behold. So term we love to use on the show, Swiss Army knife. Megan Ellashek. Megan, thank you so much for being on with us, and I guess we'll see you here in about a week and a half.
Thank you for having me.
And there you go. We want to thank Megan for coming on the show, as well as a lot of the stuff she has done behind the scenes to help us out. So this episode comes out on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, I will release the full interview on Google and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., etc. So with that, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we'll recap all 3 games this past weekend. You're listening to the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
I have the sound up, and I appreciate the guys that do the work now. But it is with great appreciation I see what the guys do, not only the announcers, but also the players. So we've had wonderful playoffs. Single, double, triple overtime games. It's been fantastic.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
And we're back. So 3 games this past weekend. 2 of them not really going our way. Very easy to say. Third game, a lot better. So we'll start off. The Phantoms on Thursday traveled up to Chicago. The final time of them traveling up to Chicago in the regular season. 2 more games later in the season that'll be down here at the Cavelli Center. But this game on Thursday, the Phantoms lost this game 5-1. So let's go ahead and breeze through this one. The first period, Chicago got goals by Sam Lipkin, Jack Harvey, and Joe Miller in a span of 2 minutes and 28 seconds, giving Chicago a 3-0 lead going into the second period. The Phantoms' only goal of the game was scored in the second period. This was at the 7:30 mark. Grant Porter, this was a shorthanded goal, his 6th of the season, from Tiernan Shouty, cutting the lead, Chicago's lead to 3-1. That would be it for the Phantoms. Going into the third period, Chicago picked up 2 more goals by Lucas Gustafsson, he always says Gustafsson, but somehow that turns into Goose.
Yeah.
I don't get that. But yeah, Chicago gets goals by Lucas Gustafson and Jackson Blake, giving them a 5-1 lead, and that's how the game would end up. Shots in the game, Chicago 32, Youngstown 24. Youngstown on the power play was 0 for 5. Chicago on the power play was 1 for 6. For Chicago, Gibson Homer stopped 23 of 24 in the win for Chicago. For Youngstown, Jacob Fowler stopped 27 of 32 in the loss, so his record drops to 7 wins, 3 losses, and a shootout loss, with a 2.0 goals against average and a .932 save percentage with 2 shutouts. So all in all, not really much to say about this game. It's just kind of another one of those cases the Phantoms showed up not ready to play.
Yeah, just absolutely did not have their legs under them from the beginning. You know, a couple of bad plays, the puck's in the net, and we just never could get anything really started.
The way they played on Thursday, that's almost what you would expect a team to look like in the third game of a 3-game series, not the first game.
Yeah, which was not exactly how I thought this weekend was going to go. But yeah, just let's shake that one off, and we'll just have to do better the next time against Chicago. We know we can play better than that against them. So
going into the game on Friday, Phantoms hopped the bus from Chicago over to Plymouth, Michigan for 2 games with the under-18 squad of Team USA. The game on Friday was a 3-0 loss for the Phantoms, so this should go pretty quick. The first period at the 19:13 mark, Rutger McGrody, his 12th of the season from Kaplan and Duke, giving USA a 1-0 lead. Going into the second period at the 5:06 mark, USA's Devin Kaplan, his 7th of the season from Stramel and McGrody, giving the U18s a 2-0 lead. And then the third period at 18:06, this was an empty net goal. Ryan Leonard, his 7th of the season from Howard and Chesley, that made the score 3-0, and that was the end of that game. Shots in the game, USA 26, Youngstown 20. Youngstown was 0 for 3 on the power play. USA was 0 for 4. USA's Trey Augustine, of course, stopped all 20 shots that he faced in the win. Kyle Chevette stopped 23 of 25 in the loss. So basically a lot of what we said about the Thursday game, we can just transpose to the Friday game and move on to Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it was clearly, I think, a better effort defensively. But again, just really from the get-go, flat. We did not generate the offense we needed. And, you can't really blame the goaltender when you get a shutout.
So moving to the game on Saturday, again against the 18s, this one went a lot better. This was a 4-3 win for the Phantoms. So jumping into the first period, at 8:56, USA's Logan Cooley, his 10th of the season from Gauthier and Snuggerud, gave USA an early 1-0 lead. And then at the 10:23 mark, Adam Ingram, his 22nd of the season from Carter Rose and Kyle Bettens, tied the game at 1. A little short of 6 minutes later at the 16:14 mark, Adam Ingram again, his 23rd of the season, and of course 2nd of the game, from Jaden Grant and Chase Patilla. That gave Youngstown a 2-1 lead, the first lead they had all weekend. So going into the second period, this was all Youngstown. At the 3:04 mark, Youngstown's Steven Sardarian, his 6th of the season from Kenta Isagai and Bayard Hall, giving Youngstown a 3-1 lead. And then at 18:42, Trey Taylor, his 8th of the season from Steven Sardarian and Grant Porter, giving Youngstown a 4-1 lead. And that's how we would go to the third period. Now in the third period, USA tried to make a game out of it. They came pretty close. At the 1:58 mark, USA's Logan Cooley, his 11th of the season and 2nd of the game from, Briskevich and Gauthier, real all-American names right there. Now, we're not being bigots or anything like that or saying that you have to have the last name Smith or Jones to play on Team USA. It's just we struggle mightily with some of these last names, and usually playing Team USA is kind of our reprieve from that. Until they start doing stuff like that to us. But anyways, with that goal, USA cut Youngstown's lead to 4-2. And then at the 9:40 mark, Tyler Duke, his 1st of the season from Letty and Snuggerud. There's a name right there, Snuggerud. Brought USA within 1, Youngstown leading 4-3, and thankfully, even though a couple very late blitzes from Team USA, Youngstown was able to hold off to get the 4-3 win. Shots in the game, Youngstown 39, USA 36. Youngstown was 0 for 3 on the power play, USA was 1 for 4. USA's goaltender Tyler Muzelek stopped 35 of 39 in the loss. Kyle Chevette stopped 33 of 36 in the win, so his record on the season improves to 14-10-4-2 with a 3.25 goals against average and an .895 save percentage. And this was Kyle's first win since February 18th, so he's got to be feeling really good about that.
Yeah, especially the night before, 2 goals against the under 18s. Any night of the year, that's a good performance, but when the team in front of you doesn't put any in, you're getting a loss just the same. So, yeah, it was definitely good to see him get the win. He's been struggling a bit, and that one had to feel good.
So that completes the season series with the under 18s. Still a few games to go with the 17s. But, of course, the number that, if you could see it, would make Justin dance in his chair right now. Youngstown ended up in 4 games this season, going 3-1 against the U18s.
Yeah, that includes going 2-1 against them in Plymouth.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's just any year I'll take that.
And of course, voice of the Phantoms, Matt Lipsack, he's a numbers guy just like I am. He sat down, he crunched the numbers, went through all of the stats, went through all the standings and everything else, and was able to come up with this stat, which was the list of teams that have beaten the under 18s more than once this season. The first team on that list is the Youngstown Phantoms, and that is all the teams on that list.
Actually, I already compiled that list myself.
Yeah. It really crunched the numbers, and when it was all said and done, that was it. Now, the U18s have 2 games left against Green Bay. Green Bay did beat them once this season, so if by some chance they could join that list, this coming weekend, we'll see what happens. But right now, there's 1 team on that list.
10-1. That's what Green Bay did on Sunday.
Yeah. So overall in the series 4 games, the scoring came out even, each team putting up 10 goals in the 4 games, which again, Youngstown allowed 10 goals over 4 games. Green Bay allowed 10 goals Saturday night.
Yeah, in 3 periods.
Or Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, in 3 periods, allowed 10 goals, so... As far as special teams overall in the 4 games, Youngstown ended up being 3 for 16 on the power play. The U18s were only 1 for 12. And I put this out on Twitter after the game on Saturday night, but now I've updated it since the Sunday game that they played with Green Bay. So since the calendar flipped, since January 1st, the under 18s have played 15 games. In 12 of those games, they averaged 7.5 goals per game. The 3 of those games that were against Youngstown, they only averaged 2.3. So, stick taps to Kyle Chevette, stick taps to Jacob Fowler for, the performances they put in, and especially to the defense that, basically allows the team to score 5 less goals a game than they're used to on average.
Yeah, and I mean, there are some incredibly talented shooters on that squad. I mean, we sit here and, make comparisons to this season or that season, but you got guys like Nazar who, I mean... that guy's got an NHL shot right now. So, any way you look at it, we are doing something really right on defense all around. And, the goaltenders factor in huge on that.
All right, so we're going to take another break. And on the other side, we'll break down these games and name our 3 stars of the week in a new segment of 4 points. So stick around right here on Western Reserve Radio.
Advanced Podiatry has been making happy feet in the Mahoning Valley for 35 years. Our offices are located in Cortland, Champion, Austintown, Columbiana, and Howland. Our Howland office has relocated to 8601 East Market Street in Howland Corners. Advanced Podiatry offers sports medicine and treatment plans for all ages. You can also request an appointment online by visiting our website at advancedpodiatry.com. Advanced Podiatry, where surgery is always a last resort.
And welcome back to the Dump and Chase podcast, brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. So, for listeners new and old, 4 points is where we break down the previous weekend into 4 categories. what we liked, what we didn't like, favorite moment, and the 3 stars of the week. Now, normally we record on Monday night and release on Wednesday, and most of the work we do in post happens on Tuesday. But since Tuesday is no good for either one of us this week, we're actually recording on Sunday night. And since I sent Justin the run sheet like an hour and a half ago, I'll go first, or his head may explode.
Yeah, especially, I mean, there were slim pickings on some categories this week.
Yeah. I usually have like a day to put the show together. I put all this together in like 2 hours. So.
He messaged me going, hey, would you mind? And it's like, actually, that works better for me because, Tuesday sucks for me.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of trying to do anything.
Yeah. All right. So getting into 4 points and what I liked. Basically, I would say a group effort, the defense and the goaltending against the U18s. And again, like we've mentioned before, this is a team that averages a lot of goals a game. And for Youngstown to essentially hold them to 3 in those 2 games, just the work between the defense and the goaltending, it had to be top notch against this group, and it was. And, one of those 6 goals was an empty net goal. So, you got to say, you have that situation, so you can't even really count that against them. But yeah, altogether, it was, I wish the offense would have brought a lot more in the Friday game, the Thursday game, but most definitely the defense and the goaltending showed up Friday and Saturday with the U18s.
Friday, you kept sitting there thinking through most of the game, well, if we just get one, we'll get this evened up and it'll be fine. And then we never got the one. So what I liked this weekend, the Saturday, the 3rd game of the weekend, we had more energy in that game than we did the first 2. I like that we actually managed to pull out that much energy for the 3rd of 3, especially after, a rough first 2. Obviously you could make excuses for yourself. We did not. We came out and we put together a fairly good 60 minutes of hockey. And, this time of the season, you playing a lot of these 3-3 games, or 3 and less than 3. Sometimes you don't even get 24 hours of turnaround. So, to pull out a win on the 3rd game, that's something to at least take into next week.
Yeah, so as far as what I didn't like, and we already talked about this a little bit, just how flat-footed and stagnant this team was in the Thursday game with Chicago. And, I mean, it's kind of been a knock for a while now. At this point, I would kill for just like 2 good first periods in a row. And it's, at the end of the day, you can argue, the argument can be had. It's, up to the coaches to make sure the team's ready. It's up to the players, to, get them, get themselves psyched up before they get out on the ice. Somebody needs to do something different.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a recurring theme. So another recurring theme in this episode and somewhat this year. What I didn't like this weekend was the inability to really get any offense those first 2 games. I mean, even when things aren't going well for a team, sometimes you have to just crash the net, throw the puck into the greasy area, hope somebody gets it, or you get a bad bounce, you get a good bounce. We just didn't really do any of that this weekend until that 3rd game. So
we could do a 2-hour show on that, but we're not going to. There's a lot of things I could say, but yeah, we have time limits here. So I'll go on to my favorite moment. That would be Adam Ingram's 2nd goal on Sunday. Now, his first goal, the goal was credited to him. I want to say it was Charlie Stramel from Team USA. The puck kind of bouncing around in the crease, ended up going off of his stick into the net. So Ingram was the last one to touch it before it went in. He got the credit for it. He didn't seem all that excited about it, especially... he's, he had gone 4 games without a point, and other than a handful of games in the middle, it's actually been a kind of a prolonged stretch of just not being able to score like he was able to before. So it's like he got the goal, but it didn't kind of have the look of that breaking out of, that slump. The 2nd goal, he most definitely put in on the rush. He seemed a lot happier after that one. And, you know, with the offense sputtering the way it has, a happy Adam Ingram is a very good thing for the Youngstown Phantoms. So seeing him get that goal and seeing a lot more excitement after that second one than the first one. Yeah, I'm going to tag that for my favorite moment of the week.
For my favorite moment, I'm going to tag actually his first goal because, like I said, the first two nights, I think one of the things that we didn't get going was crashing the net. The puck was bouncing around. I guess Ingram was the last Phantom to touch it. I'm still not. I watched the play a couple of times on replay during intermission, and I was like, okay, I'm not even going to bother trying to figure this one out. But I think that was just what the team needed at that point, was somebody to get one of those.
God, did we actually disagree on something?
Yeah.
Wow, that's what this feels like. All right, so moving on to 3 stars of the week, and we're going to kick it right off. Third star of the week is going to Kyle Chevette. 1-1 on the weekend against the U18s, but again, he only allowed 5 goals on 62 shots, which doesn't sound bad in its own right, but when you're playing the U18s, that's phenomenal. I mean, it's safe to assume maybe, you know, he's been in a little bit of a slump lately. You know, confidence might have been a little bit shaken. I will hope that the performance he put up this weekend kind of gets him back on the right track. Especially, you know, as well as Fowler's been playing, coming down to this stretch run, having both of your goaltenders playing well can go a long, long, long way.
Definitely. So, second star of the week, Adam Ingram. Another guy in a little bit of a funk, not producing quite as much as he was at the beginning of the season. Got a fluky one, got a nice one. 2 goals. His 14th you pulled up? 14th multi-point game of the season. Again, Plymouth is a nice place to do that, especially if you're looking at the NHL Central Scouting list. So yeah, if you're going to get off the schneid, that's a good place to do it, in front of the scouts.
And our first star of the week goes to Trey Taylor. 1 goal on Saturday, and I wrote this number out, but I'm not sure if I exaggerated enough. Somewhere around 8,000 blocked shots. He's going to be a little bruised up, I would imagine. Quite a few times you saw the development of some grade A chances for USA deflecting off of some part of his body that he threw in front of the puck. And I want to say the actual number might be somewhere like 6 or 7 block shots in this game. Really nowhere that we have access to that keeps track of these kind of things.
Several grade A chances on the power play.
Add in the fact TJ Schweigart going out in the first period on a, we'll call it questionable hit for right now. We'll see how that transpires through the week. We'll call it a questionable hit right now.
No call on the play.
The word I have gotten is that TJ is okay. Shouldn't miss any time, but again, we'll see how the week progresses. So fingers crossed there, but it looks like he will be okay. Trey put in a blue collar work day on Saturday. I really set the tone for the defense in that game. And that was the 3 stars of the week, and that will do it for 4 points. We're going to catch our breath here because we're going to need it for the weekend preview, which is coming up after the break right here on Western Reserve Radio.
Hello, Phantom fans. This is the Dump and Chase podcast.
We're trying to model ourselves after what you guys have done a little bit.
Voice of the Phantoms and friend of the show, Mr. Matt Lipsack.
I am along for the ride and perhaps provide some modicum of adult supervision here, although really that's a lost cause at this point.
We welcome back Phantoms president Andrew Goldman. That went smoother. It went smoother than it did with Matt.
I want that added. I want that added.
What are you shaking your head now for?
I'm agreeing with you because he has absolutely killed us this year.
Yeah, that's not helping. I'm trying to process. Okay.
Well, so far, finger guns has meant Sam shut up, so got to come up with a different sign for that.
Listen, that was frightening.
And we're back. So this weekend, we have the Muskegon Lumberjacks coming to town, a 3-game weekend at the Cavelli Center. And this will be the final 3 games of the 10-game series with Muskegon this year. So far in the 7 that have been played so far. Youngstown is 3-2-1-1 against Muskegon. So that works out to 8 out of a possible 14 points. Now, Muskegon has outscored Youngstown 23-19 in those games. Youngstown's power play, 7 for 28, which works out to 25%. Muskegon's power play has been 3 for 16. So the Phantoms' penalty kill against Muskegon works out to 81.3%. Now, the last time these teams met, it was a weekend series at the Cavelli Center on February 18th and 19th. The first game, Youngstown won 7-5. The second game, Muskegon won 4-2. Now, last weekend, Muskegon split their weekend series with Green Bay. On Friday, they won 5-2 and then lost 7-2 on Saturday. So coming into this weekend, Muskegon comes in with a record of 28-18, 3-3. That is 62 points and third in the Eastern Conference. Youngstown coming in with a record of 24-19, 5-4 for 57 points and fourth in the Eastern Conference. So right now, that's kind of the interesting thing of this weekend. Youngstown trails Muskegon by 5 points with 6 points on the line.
Oh boy. Well, it's that time of the season. 3 games against the same team. You're trailing them by 5 points, 6 on the line. Yeah. It's that time of the season.
In that kind of scenario, you're kind of going back and forth between hopeful and greedy.
Yeah. You kind of want to temper expectations a bit, but at the same time, you want to be greedy.
But yeah, this season with Muskegon so far has gone back and forth. Neither one of the teams has won 2 in a row. It's Muskegon, Youngstown, Muskegon, Young. It hasn't deviated from that so far in this series. So Muskegon on the season has put up 214 goals. That works out to a 4.12 goals per game average. That is the most in the entire USHL. They have given up 213 goals. That works out to a 4.1 goals against per game. That is the second most in the entire USHL. So yeah, they've put up 214 goals. They have a goal differential of 1.
He who lives by the sword dies by the sword.
Yeah. Youngstown coming into the weekend, they've put up 157 goals. That is 3.02 goals per game. That has been getting worse. I'd really like to see that to start going in the other direction. The Phantoms have given up 165 goals. That works out to a 3.17 goals against average per game. Special teams, Muskegon on the power play, 21.1%. That is 5th in the East. Their penalty kill is at 71.3%. That is last place in the Eastern Conference. Youngstown on the power play, 19.9%. That is 6th in the East. And the penalty kill, 79.9%. That is 2nd in the Eastern Conference. So with these games, Friday, that is a 7:05 puck drop. Then we get into Saturday, and wow, there is a lot going on with this Saturday game. This is a 7:05 puck drop. This is Youngstown Steelhounds night. The Phantoms will be wearing throwback Steelhound jerseys. There will be an auction after the game for said jerseys. There will also be Steelhound apparel available in the team shop. You know, we found out last week from Megan that Chris Richards will be dropping the puck before the game. Chris Richards played 190 games with the Steelhounds, putting up 278 points, including a 100-point season. And some people, probably know, some people may not know. Brad Patterson also played for the Steelhounds in 2006, 2007. He played a handful of games the next season, like 8 or 9 games, I believe. In 06-07, Brad Patterson put up 41 points in 59 games with the Steelhounds. So at the very least, we know there will be 2 alumni there. I know she said they're working on trying to get some more. If you want to head to the concession stand during the game, $2 pints until halfway through the second period, and $1, I guess this is what they were called back then, hound dogs, hot dogs. Yeah, they'll have those while supplies last. This is also Pucks and Paws night. Dogs get in free. And this is not a statement from the team. This is a statement from a fan who walks around the concourse during the game. Please clean up after your dogs. If people want to bring their dogs, that's great. It's a fun night. Just clean up after them. There's always the 1 or 2 people that don't. And you walk the concourse and you have to watch out for landmines.
Yeah, people, I hope it's their dogs. I mean, sometimes I wonder.
Yeah. And also, by the time this show comes out on Wednesday, this will have already aired. But Mark Means' show on Western Reserve Radio that airs every Tuesday at 5:06, his show, By All Means. This week we'll have the former radio guys for the Steel, Tim Samsell and Bob Hoffman. He'll have them both on there. Basically a trip down memory lane episode for Mark and the guys. So by the time you hear this, you can go back to Western Reserve Radio and check out that episode. And then we have the game on Sunday. That one, earlier start time. That's a 4:05 start time. That game is $5 ticket. I believe Megan said everywhere except the glass seats. So yeah, this is one of those games. If you wanted to come check out the Phantoms, haven't been able to yet, you can pick up some cheap tickets to get to come to a game. See if it's something you want to do in the future, if you're someone just hasn't been around in a while. So yeah, they'll have that going on Sunday. Now, the Tuesday after this, the Phantoms have a makeup game with the U17s at the Cavelli Center. That has a 7:05 start time. I don't know how we're going to recap that. That's just a really goofy day to... we will have already recorded by then, and then the episode comes out, record before the episode comes out after. And there's no way we can wait until Tuesday night to include it, so...
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect Tuesday night against the U17s to be too significant, but, stranger things have happened.
Yeah, but this is a makeup game from January 28th. That was the broken ice, the broken chiller, the broken compressor game from what was supposed to be a 3-game weekend there at the end of January. So this is the makeup game for that. Now, these games will be available on Hockey TV, and they will be streaming live on Western Reserve Radio with voice of the Phantoms Matt Lipsack on the call. Or, better yet, show up to the game. For ticket information, call the Phantoms box office at 330-747-PUCK. That is 330-747-7825. Or you can visit youngstownphantoms.com. So with that, we're going to take our last break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this episode and preview next week's show. You're listening to the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio. And that will do it for this episode. Be sure to tune in next week where we'll recap this weekend and look ahead to a split weekend road trip in Dubuque and Cedar Rapids. We're coming down to the end of the season. Muskegon this weekend, the U17s on Tuesday, Dubuque and Cedar Rapids next week. Then 2 games with Chicago at the Cavelli Center, and a home-and-home with the U17s to finish this season. It's one of those funny things that we've kind of passed the point of the dog days of this season. Now we're getting to the point where it feels like it's just flying by.
Yeah, it's kind of getting to almost where we're starting to think about playoffs, and that just seems a little surreal at this point.
So, and again, we want to thank the official sponsors of the Dump and Chase podcast, the fine physicians and staff at Advanced Podiatry. For information about treatments and services offered, their locations, and appointment information, check out advancedpodiatry.com. So, as always, the Dump and Chase podcast is brought to you by hockeyfan.com, and be sure to check out our syndication partners at ohiohockeydigest.com. You can hear this show every Wednesday at 5:06 on Western Reserve Radio, either on westernreserveradio.com, through the TuneIn or Live 365 apps, the Western Reserve Facebook and Twitter pages, and the Youngstown Phantoms Facebook page. Now, all 25 episodes from this season, plus the bonus episodes, can be found on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and pretty much everywhere else at this point. Now, all 70 episodes we have done over the past 3 years can be found on our YouTube channel, plus video highlights of goals from the Cavelli Center going all the way back to, 2013?
Well, yeah, some of them are links to my previous page, but yeah, playlist, but yeah.
Somewhere back around that time frame. So all of these places can be found in one spot. That is our Linktree page. The link to that can be found in the description of however you have chosen to listen to this episode. You can find Justin on Facebook at facebook.com/YTHockeyFan and on Twitter at YTHockeyFan. Both of those are spelled PHAN. And you can find me on Twitter at dump_chasepod. So again, thank you everyone for tuning in. For Justin Irwin, I'm Sam Olmstead. We'll talk with you all next week right here on the Dump and Chase podcast. Bye now.